Tony Passon represents the seat of Barker in the Federal Parliament, a South Australian seat that stretches from Kingston and Robe down on the southeast coast of South Australia, all the way through Murray Bridge and along the Murray River's lower lakes, right up to the Riverland of South Australia, and has a close interest, naturally, because of his constituency, in River Murray politics and the Murray-Darling Basin Plan. On a busy Thursday sitting morning after the National Party made a controversial move on the Basin Plan in the Senate the day before, I caught up with Tony Passon. Tony Passon, member for Barker, thanks for joining us on Flow this morning.
Good morning, Ricky.
Now, what's the latest that you can share with us about the Murray-Darling Basin debate in the Senate? I know you're in the other house, but I'm sure you've tracked that closely.
I have, and I'm pleased to tell your listeners, particularly your listeners in the basin in South Australia, that this balloon that was floated yesterday by the National Party was slapped down in the Senate yesterday.
And the member for Mallee, Anne Webster, has said to us late yesterday she was hoping the Liberal Party would come on board with their plan to drop the extra 450 gigalitres being pursued and other measures in the Basin Plan. I take it the Liberal Party won't be doing that.
Well, I've got to tell you, I'm incredibly surprised by that statement by the member for Mallee. The difficulty here is even if the Liberal Party were to alter its position on the recovery, it would need the agreement of all states as well as the Commonwealth. And I just can't see the South Australian state government agreeing to that. Now, Dr Webster knows that. Other members of the National Party know that. And this is just the usual chest beating that you see after leadership change as people posture for positions and messages are sent to electorates. What disappoints me, Ricky, about this is it sends a shockwave of uncertainty through my irrigation and basin communities, and the people listening to your show this morning in those communities heard all of this yesterday, and quite frankly, I know that none of this is any chance of happening, and it just lowers the standing that politicians have in those communities, but it also drives a little bit of concern and fear. The one thing I want to see, and I was signatory to a letter to the Prime Minister yesterday, there are two things I want to see. I want to see the plan implemented in full and on time, and quite frankly, given that we've had a ever-changing guard of water ministers in this country and how difficult this portfolio is to get your head around, I'd really like to see Minister Pitt maintain his role and portfolio responsibilities for water. He's a very good water minister, and I say that as a Lib, noting that he's a member of the National Party, and part of that is because he has an engineering background, but the other part is because he's domiciled in Queensland. And the idea of having a water minister from New South Wales, Victoria or South Australia is just ridiculous, because that just feeds into all of the old parochialisms.
And with the Nationals leadership change that has occurred, you mentioned there's some posturing that's going on. Senator Bridget McKenzie moved these amendments, but some of your parliamentary colleagues, the Greens, Sarah Hanson-Young and Rex Patrick, the Independent Senator, say the Nationals should be stripped of the water portfolio and it should come back to the Liberals. It was with the Liberals a while ago. What's the Liberal position on who should actually have the water portfolio?
Well, that's not a matter for me, Ricky, you know that, but I've just told your listeners that I think Minister Pitt, who is a member of the LNP from Queensland, is doing a fantastic job. I've had the privilege of hosting mayors from Barker in Parliament this week, including many of those who represent river communities, and overwhelmingly, when it was clear that the leadership spill had successfully replaced the Deputy Prime Minister McCormack with Deputy Prime Minister Joyce, the immediate concern was to ensure that there'd be stability in that water portfolio. And so I'm simply reflecting the concerns of my electorate as expressed by mayors this week in Parliament House, that our communities, particularly in the basin, don't want to see a change of minister, because they know that that sets the progress of the plan back immeasurably every time it occurs. You know, Ricky, your listeners know that the Murray-Darling Basin Plan is devilishly complicated. It takes a long time for ministers to get up to speed with the nuances of this plan, and every time we change the relevant minister, we delay the progress of its implementation. And for me, the focus has always been in full and on time. And so changing ministers is counterproductive and increases the risk that we won't deliver the plan on time.
Now, the certainty issue you mentioned before and these rumbles that have happened this week might have damaged certainty. One of the amendments I thought the Nationals was moving was to legally prevent any further buyback in the basin. Wouldn't that deliver some certainty for irrigators that there wouldn't be more buybacks?
Ricky, we've already indicated that the government's position is for there to be no more buybacks. I don't support buybacks. And we've created a scenario in which we've made it crystal clear there won't be buybacks occurring in the community. The reality here, and we all know it, whether you're an irrigator, whether you're a member of the National Party in the federal parliament or you're a regional liberal like me, the way to achieve this recovery target is to work with irrigators in river communities to find more efficient ways to deliver the same outcome. The 3IP program, where government provided capital incentives to businesses in exchange for water efficiencies which were then shared between the farming business and the Commonwealth, that is, the water savings effectively were the quid for the capital investment quo, is the way to go forward here. You recover water for the environment, which is a great thing for South Australia and the lower lakes in particular, but you maintain the productive capacity in regions like the Riverland. It's win-win, and we need to be looking for win-wins along this journey. The old politics of I win if you lose is the reason why it's taken us more than 100 years to get to this point in respect to debates around the basin. And I was disappointed yesterday to see the National Party, for whatever reason, fall back into the we win if you lose mentality, because ultimately, Ricky, you know, your listeners know, if we think through that kind of prism, we all lose. And as South Australians, we particularly lose.
But with the buyback policy, I think the Nationals were trying to say they wanted to buttress the scenario that if Labor wins office, but buyback could be used to reach the water recovery targets. I know you're saying it's government policy to not have buybacks, but they were trying to legislate that as a guarantee.
Well, it is no guarantee, because that's the reality. The reality is that while we're in office, that position is guaranteed. The Labor Party have made it absolutely clear that if they were to win the next or subsequent elections, that they will reinstate buybacks. And so let's think about what the National Party is saying. The National Party is saying, let's put a legislative provision in the Act which prevents this from happening. Well, that is not going to help anyone if the Labor Party have control of this place, because what you'll see is that legislation rescinded so that they can execute those buybacks. So it's too cute by half, Ricky. The reality is we need to continue to make it very clear to our constituencies that if you don't support buybacks, you need to vote for the coalition. If you support buybacks and you think the idea of government waltzing into town with a chequebook and buying water back from irrigators and removing that water forever from the productive pool is a good thing, then you should vote for the Labor Party. I personally think it's batshit crazy.
Well, Tony Passon, some colourful language to finish off our conversation. Thanks. I'll let you go when you've got a busy sitting day today. Thanks for joining us on Flow.
Always a pleasure, Ricky.